Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a story that sparkles with gold, but carries the stench of old blood and bad choices. Welcome to the world of ancient Egyptian royalty, where people bow to you by day, but someone might slip poison into your wine by night. Glamorous? Sure, until you realize survival isn't guaranteed. And even if you make it, you might wish you hadn't. Before we get started, take a moment to like and subscribe if you enjoy what I do. Drop your city and time in the comments. I'm curious where and when you're watching from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum, and let's step into this journey together. You're born under the watchful eyes of Ra, wrapped in linen before you can even talk. Your cradle is carved from cedar, inlaid with lapis lazuli. Nurses whisper in your ear, calling you divine, as if the gods themselves breathed your soul into existence. But you're not just any royal child. You're the firstborn of Pharaoh, a contender for the throne. Congratulations, you've been cursed since your first breath. Your name is written on papyrus scrolls in golden ink. Your wet nurse outranks most generals. You were a cobra-headed pendant before your first tooth. The palace gleams like a pearl on the desert's edge, its columns rising like date palms, walls painted with lotus flowers and triumphant chariots. But inside, it's not peaceful. It's a hushed, wary, calculating silence. Footsteps echo too carefully. Laughter carries a strain. Your toys are watched, your food tasted, your robes checked for snake venom. Here's the deal. You're valuable, but not in a heartwarming way. You're a pawn on a board where the stakes are eternity. A threat to your uncles, a stepping stone for your aunt, a prize for your mother's ambitious cousin. Everyone wants something from you, including the gods. And the gods are demanding. Your life is bound by ritual, waking with the sun god, sleeping with the moon goddess, speaking with reverence, walking in measured steps, never crying in public. That's not divine, it's exhausting. Your teachers, scribes, priests, warriors, shape you like wet clay. They tell you stories of Osiris, the great king betrayed, dismembered, and stuffed into a coffin by his jealous brother. You listen closely because everyone in your lineage claims descent from Osiris, and the moral isn't lost on you. Kings die, often by someone close. By age 10, you've mastered hiding behind your own eyes. You nod at the right moments, stay still when your half-brother is praised for your deeds, and memorize the palace layout. Not just the courtyards and prayer halls, but the hidden tunnels and servant paths. You know where someone could disappear or be pushed. Here's a twist from history. Egyptian royals weren't just kings and queens. They were living gods, incarnations of Horus, keepers of Ma'at, divine order. You're not just a child. You're a symbol, a walking talisman, a future deity whose every move will be carved in stone. But peel back the gold veneer, it's all maneuvering. Sycophants praise your divine nose or bless curls, but the moment your mother leaves, they whisper how fragile you look, how accidents happen. One tale speaks of a young prince's toy replaced with a miniature cobra, ending in swollen limbs and a dawn funeral. True, scholars debate it. The line between myth, warning, and reality blurs when everyone's plotting your downfall. Not every royal child died young. Some ruled into their 60s. But childhood was a gamble with crocodiles, dysentery, and sunstroke, plus the constant risk of palace accidents. It's like an ancient version of Survivor, but the prize is a golden throne, and the punishment is ritual death. Speaking of rituals, you're dragged from bed before dawn for purification ceremonies. Your head is shaved every 10 days to keep your divine skull clean. Your ceremonial loincloth leaves welts. Meals are dictated by astrology. No garlic, fish, or anything that might taint your essence. Just honey-soaked bread, date wine, and constant surveillance. In some periods, royal children were sequestered, hidden in sacred chambers, raised like veal calves for the day they'd be sacrificed, metaphorically or otherwise, on the altar of dynasty. Inscriptions describe some kept in silence for days as a test of divine endurance. Plausible? Egypt was obsessed with dualities, life and death, silence and speech, power and vulnerability. You embody them all. One day, a priest whispers during an incense ceremony, "Be still when others are loud." It's not just spiritual advice, it's survival code. You watch your cousins closely, noting who smiles too quickly, who lingers near balconies. You notice the servant who arrives after everyone's asleep. Was that steel in their sleeve? The sun rises, lotus blooms, harp music floats through corridors, but behind your coal-lined eyes, you know, being royal isn't a gift. It's a gilded trap. The palace isn't your home. It's a stage for betrayal. At 13, you're overdue for betrayal. Your voice has changed. You wear a ceremonial wig woven from your hair and a sacred ibexes, and you're now a viable threat to anyone with ambition and cruelty. Your half-brother Rami, once your partner in sneaking pomegranate tarts, now avoids eye contact, a dagger tucked under his sash. He smiles too much at generals, trades glances with the high priest, and sits just far enough from the pharaoh to seem loyal but close enough to be noticed. It's the slow choreography of a coup. Siblings like Rami aren't just family. They're competitors in a gladiator pit of incense, flattery, and subtle threats. You fight with gifts, rumors, strategic silences. You accidentally praise your cousin's military training near your father, and soon that cousin's reassigned to a distant fort. Your sister Nephira, 16, is smarter than you all. She speaks 4 dialects, knows 20 generations of lineage, and recites Ma'at's laws with a gaze that unnerves grown men. Married to another half-brother for political reasons, she's no passive queen-in-waiting. Her allies in the priesthood whisper she should rule. And in Egypt, those whispers can lead to vanishings. Rumors swirl of secret. Nephira chuckles softly, her voice dropping to a whisper. You know he won't stop. Rami. He's got the title now, and he'll want the throne. He'll remove anything in his way. I'm not in his way, you say. She meets your eyes. You're a backup plan. That's worse. Her words sink in. If Rami falters, if the gods send a bad omen or the priests shift their favor, you're next in line. You're a threat, whether you choose to be or not. What should I do? You ask. Stay close, but not too close. Be helpful, but never eager. And never forget Seti. Her voice lowers further. He was looking for allies. You realize you're not the only one watching from the shadows. The royal court isn't just siblings circling each other. It's factions, webs of loyalty and ambition woven in secret. Your role now is to blend in, just another thread in the tapestry. So you keep your head down. You attend Rami's ceremonies, smile at his victories, clap when he brandishes his new golden mace. You cheer as he performs mock battles in the training yard. He's the golden boy now. But gold, you've noticed, is soft, beautiful, easy to shape. At night, when the palace is quiet, you trace patterns in the dust with your fingertip. Maps of relationships, guesses at allegiances, questions without answers. You draw Rami's name at the center of a circle, then yours, then Nephira's, and a fourth, unexpected, the vizier. You stare at it, then blow the dust away. At 15, you're old enough to be taken seriously, but not feared. A good place to be. You move through the palace like a shadow in linen, noticed but faintly. Your sandals scuff just enough to avoid suspicion of sneaking. You've crafted this image, the quiet royal, devout, loyal to Rami, adoring of your sister, uninterested in ambition's weight. It's a mask, painted to hide decay. The palace has shifted since Rami was named crown prince and Nephira high consort. Rami walks with the confidence of a god carved in stone. Nephira wears brighter silks, surrounded by handmaidens doubling as spies. You sit in the garden library, reading scrolls on agricultural quotas and crocodile migrations, subjects that scream harmless. It's a performance, but your real education has begun. Being royal in Egypt isn't just temples, ceremonies, or thrones. It's blood. Not just in your veins, but the blood that binds families and spills to protect or erase dynasties. This is the era of divine bloodlines, a tangled lineage worshipping itself as much as the gods. Incest isn't scandal here, it's policy. Pharaohs, seen as gods, marry within their divine family, as myth dictates. Brothers wed sisters, daughters wed fathers. Not taboo, but tradition. You've known this, but now it carries weight. When everyone shares blood, family and threat become one. You see it in Rami and Neferura's glances. Not just political allies, but husband and wife, a concentrated lineage wrapped in protocol. There's tension, not hatred, but competition. Your mother's silence is telling. She wears her turquoise and gold collar, pours libations gracefully, but alone with you, she's sparing with words. You're quiet, she says one evening, watching you eat honey-soaked lotus seeds. I'm learning, you reply. She studies you. Don't think your blood protects you. It only makes you valuable, and valuable things are stolen or broken. Her warning sticks. Darker whispers stir. Drought upriver. A missing merchant caravan. Grain shortages. Nothing alarming alone, but together they're a pattern, the gods' language. You raise these with Senbi, your former tutor, now managing royal correspondence, framing your curiosity as concern for Rami's ceremonial tour. Will the priests in Lower Egypt be ready? Will grain supplies meet expectations? Harmless questions. Senbi narrows his eyes. You think like a vizier. Not quite a compliment, but he answers, the Nile flooded late. That brings unrest. Hungry people question their gods. You know, but inside you buzz. Unrest means distraction. Distraction means opportunity. Your curiosity about bloodlines grows, driven by necessity. You scour archives for disputed heirs, mysterious deaths, sudden disappearances. Many are veiled in poetic language or lost scrolls, but some stand out, like Akhenaten's. You find a tablet fragment, a hymn to the sun disk. Akhenaten abandoned the old gods for one deity, fracturing the priesthood. His family splintered, his statues smashed, his name erased, his tomb abandoned. Was he mad? Murdered by priests, generals, or his son? The records are vague, a historical inkblot where truth and fear blur. You reread the lines, lamp burning low. Divine blood is sacred, but when it threatens the system, it's destroyed like a false idol. Your blood, shared with Rami, Neferura, and Pharaoh, is a weapon in the wrong hands. 3 days later, the vizier summons you to his dim chamber, lit by a single brazier, smelling of crushed date leaves. His cracked skin and sharp man's mysterious death shifts loyalties overnight. Kill one, and silence does the rest. You spend the day in ceremonial tasks, temple repair inspections, tribute blessings, a tedious reed-counting ritual designed to bore you into submission. Rami and Neferura are conspicuously absent. By evening, the sun casts sharp shadows over the courtyard. Halfway through reciting tax exemptions, a messenger kneels, handing you a folded papyrus in Neferura's script. Asterisk, do not return to your chamber tonight. He has made his decision. Asterisk, you fold it without a sound, dismiss the messenger, and finish the reading as if nothing's changed. But everything has. By nightfall, you've vanished, or so they think. You're in the old tunnels beneath the palace, stone and salt passages used by embalmers and architects, where no one walks without a guide. Senbi is with you, torch in hand, his face unreadable. He's not subtle, he murmurs, but he's thorough. Your guards were replaced at sunset. Your wine was laced. Your bedding shifted, a blade sewn into your mattress. Likely meant to look like a panicked suicide. You say nothing, just breathe. This isn't sibling rivalry anymore. It's a hunt, and you're the prey. It's strange, realizing someone planned your death so intimately. Rami didn't just want you gone. He wanted a story, a tragic prince broken by divine duty. He wanted a clean ending. You won't give him that. For 2 nights, you hide, not in caves or distant provinces, but cleverly misplaced. A servant's room under the temple, a forgotten alcove in the archives. You're unseen, but see everything. Whispers spread that you've gone missing, that your guards claim you left after sunset and never returned. Your chamber is sealed out of respect. Rami prays publicly for your return, but sends soldiers to patrol the Nile for a body. He's crafting your absence with alarming speed. On the 3rd night, Nefer even Rami sends a gift, a curved dagger inscribed with Set, god of chaos. A pointed gesture, but the strangest gift arrives unmarked. A small jar of perfume, no seal, no note, just a cloying scent that twists your stomach. You order it buried deep in the desert, unrecorded. That night, you dine alone, trusting only figs, salted bread, and wine you poured yourself, second-guessing every bite. The crown isn't just weight, it's a target. In the days that follow, you ease into your role. Briefings, ceremonies, visits to temples, granaries, garrisons. You speak little, listen much, letting people believe you're thoughtful without seeming to decide alone. Pharaohs don't rule. They orchestrate, making others feel part of something divine, eternal. You're no longer a man, but a myth in sandals. Yet you keep watching, learning. Palace perfumes weren't the only things tampered with. Burial records are being rewritten, names hidden, lineages adjusted, subtle enough to muddy succession but cast doubt. It points to one person, your mother. She never liked your fragile look as a child, called your smile too soft for a king. Perhaps she thought she could steer succession toward someone stronger or shape the story herself. Late one evening, you corner one of her scribes in the scriptorium. No threats, no raised voice, just questions. He spills everything. Small bribes and spices and wine, minor edits to records, a letter here, a date there, enough to elevate Rami and erase your presence in key ceremonies. Alone afterward, you don't rage or cry. You light a lamp and write a proclamation, not of punishment but of erasure. Your mother's name will remain in private family tombs, but vanish from public rituals. No shrines, no hymns, no statues. You don't destroy her memory, you shadow it. In Egypt, being ignored is worse than death. They whisper your name differently now, with a mix of awe and suspicion, like talk of storms or crocodiles near irrigation fields. You're not quite feared, but no longer harmless, a transformation as divine as any gods. Ceremonies drag on. Dawn blessings, noon offerings, processions with lotus petals at your feet, priests chanting your fivefold titular as if the world hinges on every syllable. It's impressive, exhausting, absurd. The throne room, empty of court or scribes, reveals the truth. The ebony, gold, and ivory seat, carved with falcons, inks, and too many cobras, is cold hard. Your breathing echoes like it doesn't belong. This was supposed to be power. It feels like performance. Omens arrive from the priesthood, a sun disk flickering like a torch in a storm, rays tangled with smoke. The priest hesitates, reading it aloud. You nod, but it sounds less like divine wisdom and more like an untended fire pit. Belief in Egypt is politics, and the gods seem to favor the sun, specifically Aten. In a council meeting, a nervous priest mentions that temples in Akhenaten, once forbidden to speak Aten's name, are whispering it again. The solar cult is stirring in the south, with dual rituals to Ammonius and Aten hedging bets. The vizier's silent look carries weight. This is a test. Aten's cult, erased after Akhenaten's fall, is creeping back. His city, abandoned to sand, stir. Some whisper it's coincidence. Others claim Sobek's wrath stirs. So fierce, even Ammonius takes heed. You don't quell the rumors. Instead, you fuel them, ordering a modest ceremony by the Nile, a symbolic act of healing. You summon the priesthoods of Thoth, Sobek, and the moon, but exclude the Atenist scribes. When pressed, you say softly, "This is a river matter." Under a brutal sun, you stand on a sandstone altar, arms outstretched, overlooking the water. Priests chant, incense thickens the air. You cast lotus petals into the current, one for each lost tomb builder, men who vanish for knowing too much. You speak their names aloud, the true ritual. Naming is power. You summon them back into memory, and the crowd listens. You end by tossing a sundisk amulet into the Nile, letting silence speak louder than prayers. That night, a stranger visits your chamber, a merchant from Akhenaten, dealing in scrolls and ideas. He's calm, unthreatening, and hands you a map of Akhenaten, not as ruins, but as a living city rebuilt temples cleansed, roads reopened. You'll need this, he says. Whether you burn it or kneel to it, that city is yours now. He leaves. You fold the map thrice, tuck it into your sleeve, and sit in the dark, pondering crocodiles, gods, and sunlight that never forgets. The river hides, but it also returns. Sickness strikes, fevers in the west quarter, vomiting in the lower districts, children too weak to sit. Priests burn incense relentlessly, purify wells with natron, chant until their voices crack, but the plague spreads. It cares not for hymns. Palace physicians, eyes red, scrolls stained with panic, mutter of contaminated water, spoiled grain, or miasma. One whispers curse before retracting. You ask if it spreads by air or touch. They don't know. You visit Sekhmet's temple, not for faith, but for appearances. Sekhmet, lioness goddess of plague and cure, demands offerings to stay her wrath or grant mercy. Her temples, dark and filled with jars of unspeakable things, unnerve you. The high priest greets you with a stifled cough. More cases, he rasps, mostly children, but it's spreading. You nod, suspecting this is no divine test, but a human one. Pharaoh as shepherd or scapegoat. You convene an emergency council, vizier, priests, physicians. Sembi arrives late, pale, blaming incense. The room crackles with tension as priests argue for quarantine, sacrifices, or barring foreign pilgrims. You speak once. We treat the sick, isolate the worst, but abandon no one. A Thoth priest, voice brittle, suggests this is punishment for the sun cult. You retort, or for your greed? Silence falls. The vizier hides a smile. The council disperses in murmurs of doom. Alone, you study grim reports, rising deaths, halted grain, slowing trade. Whispers blame you for defying the old gods, for flirting with Aten, for tolerating blasphemers. You act swiftly, sending clean water, physicians, herbs, and Horus amulets to the lower district for morale, not medicine. Secretly, you write to Akhenaten, seeking records of how they handled illness. You send the letter unsigned, sealed in wax, via a merchant. Days later, a reply arrives, dried desert herbs with a note to steep them in wine and burn them in sick rooms. Sembi confirms their safety. Brewed and used, they slow the plague spread. You walk the streets, guarded but visible, touching fevered children, accepting their tokens, ribbons, carvings, beads. An old woman grabs you, rasping. You're marked. Sekhmet said you wear a shadow. You pull away as she laughs like breaking stone. That night, you burn incense to Sekhmet, whispering, I don't fear you, but I respect your teeth. A riot erupts outside Thoth's temple. Angry voices demanding why prayers fail, why priests thrive while children die. You send food, water, and Sembi, who speaks plainly of your commitment. The crowd scatters, but Sembi returns feverish. You sit by him, silent, as night consumes the lamps. When he sleeps, you stare at the city, vowing Egypt won't rot under your watch. Sembi's death brings a suffocating stillness. No grand mourning, just a quiet void. He dies without drama, one breath stopping like a snuff candle. The physician calls it a fever to the brain, quick, merciful. You sit by his cooling body, unmoving. You wrap him in linen yourself, placing a simple stone scarab over his heart. He's buried quietly in the necropolis, his tomb unmarked but known to you. The vizier finds you in the garden, under fig trees, petals falling like broken pieces. You've lost something, he says. You nod. Sembi was your memory, your balance. Without him, you feel heavier, more pharaoh than person. The vizier offers to take his duties. You refuse, letting them rest with Sembi. He hands you a list, trade disputes, flood projections, unrest, and a curious feast in your name, unapproved. The steward claims it came from the vizier's office. The vizier denies it, noting the forged script, too sharp, slightly smudged. Someone close is betraying you. You cancel the feast and trace the document. It leads to a missing scribe and another promoted to the granary, where odd deliveries, rose water, dried fish, go to an unused palace wing. At night, you investigate alone. In a crumbling corridor, a small door reveals a candlelit room, a steaming bowl, and a papyrus. Feasts hide poison best. You summon the taster, who admits some gifted dishes go untested. The guard lists recent kitchen staff changes. 3 names tied to the Aten cult or Akhenaten. They vanish before arrest. The palace leaks, spiritually and physically. Defiant, you order a real feast, open to all. Merchants, priests, artisans, even Daryl Medina's children. You inspect every dish, choose the palace gardens, and wear plain linen. You sip from a cup publicly, surviving the night. Rumors spread. Pharaoh cannot be killed, eats no fear, is blessed. The vizier chuckles. You're becoming their myth. You reply, I'm just trying not to die. A late-night tale among scribes speaks of a king who died in battle, his body replaced by a look-alike to maintain order. You think of this as your face, carved on obelisks and rings, feels less yours. It's serene, unlike the man gasping awake at night, whispering the dead's names. A strange request arrives from a Delta village, a meeting, their letter hinting, the king we buried may still walk. You go with the vizier and 2 disguised guards. The village is eerily quiet, eyes watching from doorways. The elder, voice clear despite his bent back, says you shouldn't have come in person. Inside a half-collapsed temple, he names Smenkhare, the ghost pharaoh tied to Akhenaten, who vanished from records. A man claiming no name, but speaking of light as a weapon appeared, then left. The altar's symbols, sun rays binding figures, chill you. The elder fears what's next. On the return, a scroll awaits. You wear a crown carved from my silence. Belief in Egypt has teeth. The priesthood demands answers. You deny another king or false god, saying, Egypt is watched. Uncomforted, they push for control. You commission a young artisan to sculpt you as you are, tired, scarred, human. Unveiled, the statue horrifies the court but draws the people, who leave letters and confessions. You realize the enemy isn't Smenkhare or Aten, but the story told without you. Tomb robbers strike a royal ant's tomb. The caught intruder, Bakken, a Bon Chance, son of armies, is your 4th cousin. He sought a burial record to rewrite your mother's lineage, claiming closer ties to an untainted pharaoh. He dies in a cell hanged. Tomb breaches, you learn, are common, often by kin seeking to rewrite history. You order a tomb no one can open, built by childless, familyless men paid well, but told their names will vanish. Your name begins vanishing too. Cartouches chipped from statues with surgical precision. You commission Mahu, a blind orator, to spread your true story orally, unburnable. It grows, twisting into myths of you as a tragic king, a magician, a crocodile. The high priest of Ammonius warns your changes blur tradition. You retort, maybe the gods need to change. A scribe warns priests are burning scrolls. You task Setka, an archivist, to hide duplicate scrolls in tombs, caravans, and buried jars. You send letters to small temples for sanctuary, a statue, a hymn, a carving. Your image keeps vanishing. Even your tomb is tampered with. You promote the culprit to carve your name on wells, ensuring public scrutiny. Mahu vanishes. Fire consumes Thoth's temple, the archive, and a watcher statue. A captured Ammonius priest reveals no direct orders, just silent permission. You abandon statues, scrolls, and temples, becoming the absent king. You walk among fishermen and beggars, a rumor of truth. Stories spread. You heal fevers, warn of sandstorms, inspire shrines. Akhenaten thrives quietly. It's called a movement of traders and artisans. Your enemies, frustrated, fail to erase you. The vizier dies, buried simply. You move to a scribe's house, tending gardens, reading to children. A boy gives you a wooden carving of the mythic you, claiming you stopped the sun and river's fight. You keep it on your windowsill. At death, quiet followers bury you in an unmarked desert tomb with the carving, no spells, just silence. Centuries pass. Your name fades from records, but stories linger. Children speak it like honey. Old women pray to you. A whisperer rides the Nile's wind. The Pharaoh who lived without statues, died without a name. Yet Egypt remembers.